Hey kids, we're here to kind of review your homework from last night, which was to make a four-part conclusion based on this graph here, which was number 3 from your graphing practice. This is Tracy's paper, and I spilled a little bit of my lunch on there. Sorry, Tracy, it's kind of gross. But anyways, looking at this graph, we're going to make a conclusion. Remember, every good conclusion has 4 parts to it, right? And that's going to be H-def. Restatement of your hypothesis, 3 pieces of data, a possible source of error, and a further inquiry. So let's go through this one at a time. As you can imagine, you're going to be self-scoring this, and it's going to be a maximum of 4 points. So give yourself a point every time you do one of things correctly. So the hypothesis, I realize that we didn't write a hypothesis before this, but we know a hypothesis is an if-then statement. So hopefully you realized, and when you read through question number 3, that Mr. Smith hypothesized that Mr. Hurst's car would heat up more quickly. So based on the graph that we have, right, I mean, you could argue this either way, but really I'm going to say yes. If we test Mr. Hurst and Mrs. Leach's cars, then Mr. Hurst's car will heat up the fastest. Or maybe you said, no, if we test Mr. Hurst and Mrs. Leach's cars, then Mr. Hurst's car would not heat up the fastest. Any kind of if-then statement is fine with a yes or no in front of it. If you've done that, then give yourself that point. If not, no big deal, because again, this graph is such that you could argue that Mrs. Leach's car heat up the fastest, or back here, Mr. Hurst's car heat up the fastest. I'm way more concerned that you put a yes or no in front of an if-then statement, which would have been our hypothesis. So if you've done that, you have a point. Congratulations. Data, you have 3 pieces of data. There's lots of data to choose from. I chose this. I said at the 8-minute mark, Mr. Hurst's car was 13 degrees Celsius. Mrs. Leach's car was 10 degrees Celsius. So that's a difference of 3 degrees Celsius warmer for Mr. Hurst's car. Now that's because I chose the 8-minute mark. If you chose a different part, then fine, that's great, as long as you have 3 pieces of data that back up your statement here. Error. There's all kinds of different error. Remember, error is not human error. It is something that should have been a constant that was not. So in this case, I thought, an error could be that maybe you parked them in different places, and one was sitting in the sun, one was sitting in the shade. That's a possible source of error. Again, something that should have been a constant but wasn't. Or maybe you said maybe they both had a different kind of gasoline in each of them. Or maybe Mrs. Leach's car had her heated seats turned on and Mr. Hurst's didn't, or whatever. Any situation you can think of that's not human error, anything the experimenter did wrong, but something in the experimental design, something should have been a constant and it wasn't. And last but not least, a further inquiry. Just like what's the next question we can ask now that we've discovered this? And the idea is that, hey, I wonder how cold each car could get. Maybe the other way, seeing maybe, okay, is the car that gets the hottest not get very cold, or whatever. Any logical question is okay here. H-def. Word for word restatement of your hypothesis with a yes or no in front of it. 3 pieces of data, a possible source of error, and a further inquiry. Please grade yourself out of 4 points, and then you will record your score on the sheet in the back like normal. You know what to do. Have a great day.